All right, it's 6 o'clock. We'll call the meeting to order. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the agenda.
I will make a motion to approve our agenda.
Thanks, Arvid. There's a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Marcia. We have a motion by Arvid and a second by Marcia to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Carries. Item 3, the consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they wish to discuss regarding the consent? Being no discussion, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thanks,
I'll
Ron.
second that.
Thanks, Van. The motion by Ron and a second by Van to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, say no. Carries. Item 4, public input and ideas, limit 5 minutes per speaker. Is there anybody that wishes to speak? Okay, come on up, state your name and address.
My name is Aaron Rother, new resident at 406 Delmar Avenue. First of all, I want to thank you, Mr. President, for when I reached out to you, I contacted you about whether I could park a pod in front of the street.
I remember.
So, thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Thoroughly enjoying this fine town, and just as a new resident, wanted to express that. And also had just a question when it comes to the Falls Park, the broken down signage. I guess the Boy Scouts put that up years ago. Is there any plans to replace or update that as far as the aesthetics for tourism?
I can speak to that, I guess. The family of the scout who put that up had made some efforts to find somebody to do that work and kind of failed. The money will come from them. We don't have it in our budget to do that, but as soon as, I guess it's now on me to find someone willing to do that router work. And actually, in the meantime, I've heard from Wyatt that he'd like to maybe update some of the information.
Thanks, Arvid.
I think like a granite, for future budgetary reasons, granite is something less prone to granite. Other than that, maybe why you don't say the pledge at the beginning of the meeting. I served on my small town city council for 8 years, so just out of curiosity.
Typically, the public comment isn't usually a two-way dialogue, but you're welcome to share. There has been some discussion about that.
Thank you all. Appreciate your service.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else wish to speak? Don't see anybody else indicating that. Nobody in the hallway. Okay, we'll move on then to staff reports. First one, please.
Hello.
Hi.
AJ.
So going over October, we generated 334 calls for service in the village and compiled 59 incident and traffic crash reports. We made 4 arrests, initiated 30 traffic stops, and issued 37 municipal citations. Other than that, something to note, admin's been working on various tasks within the police department, getting usernames and credentials kind of switched over to my new role, as well as cleaning up, preparing for winter. One of the bigger projects is we got our garage swept out, the big drain in the middle, we vacuumed that, get all the dirt out in anticipation of washing off all the road salt, sand and whatnot, just a little preventative maintenance there. We posted our position for 2 full-time officers, and I'm happy to say that we begin our first round of interviews this month. So hopefully next month we'll bring you guys some better news. So anticipation of that, I sent Officer Brevin to field training school. It's kind of a specialized school for more advanced officers with experience to essentially teach them how to teach brand new recruits. Gives them a few more tools to different methods, as well as document progress and, you know, for records and to see if someone's a viable candidate during our field training. Other than that, we responded to a 2-vehicle crash on Education Avenue where a vehicle had actually overturned during school zone hours. So luckily, no one was seriously injured with that. We had first responders on scene pretty quickly. But just a reminder that school zone hours are in effect when children are present and the speed limit is reduced. So, other than that, Copy with the Cops started last month. That went off wonderfully, and we will be hosting another Copy with the Cop this month on the 22nd from 8:30 to 10 o'clock. So,
AJ, can you turn the mic? Turn the mic on. Thank you.
Can you repeat all that?
Green means go.
green means go. Otherwise, did you guys have any questions for me at all? Okay.
Thanks, AJ.
Yep.
Okay, next up, Public Works.
Good morning.
God.
This is long. It was a busy October. I guess to summarize the face of things, there's a lot of cleaning, a lot of picking up, a lot of getting things shined up and ready to go for the turning of the season. And in the background has just been maintenance, making sure that we're ready to go, that our equipment's ready to go, and ensuring we're ready for that winter turnover. I think as I mentioned, we had the ability to sort of demo a machine. I think we'll be talking about this a little bit later on the agenda, but we spent nearly 2 weeks running the gauntlet with this machine to ensure that it was a possible fit for the village of Osceola. Any questions?
Are we planning on keeping that 2014 in use for a little while longer?
2014.
The plow truck?
Well, that is correct. I mean, technically, for the approved capital plan for 24 and 25, we already borrowed 100,000 for that truck. I guess it would be phase one borrow of that truck, and 26 approximately another 120,000. So somewhere that's, don't quote me, but it's just over $200,000 total. That to replace that single axle patrol truck, that 2014. That just cost us another costly repair, second year in a row. So while we are in need of replacing that truck, it is a priority. I've also been updated that these trucks have gone up 42% from our last expenditure. So our 2024 chassis that took 2 years to arrive and came in at roughly 216,000. Now we're looking at close to 300. So just another reason why the potential sort of cost savings and what's coming up later in the agenda with the street sweeper and other things.
So the one truck went up to 300,000, is that?
Roughly 300. I've talked to a couple of different builders, traditional builders that governments deal with in the state of Wisconsin, both Universal and Monroe. That is the near price tag for a single axle patrol truck at this time.
Stuff's not getting any cheaper.
Fully equipped.
Fully equipped, identical to the same chassis and build that we did and that arrived last year.
Yeah.
That same truck is going to cost us nearly about 300 grand.
Boy, oh boy. It's the way it is.
So I was thinking potential cost savings. There is the other potential for that overrun or the savings from a sweeper.
Right.
I'll have to go towards a new truck in 2027.
And it's not like you're gonna be able to drive around a demo plow truck and buy that cheap, so.
No.
Yeah, I tried getting those once when we
Yeah.
had a fielder last year to no success.
Right.
Hard to come by.
They really are.
All right, thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Next up, utilities.
Yeah, Rick can't make it again tonight. A few highlights from their report. Low zone flushing, they're getting all the flushing done for the fall to be ready for service from the winter. The big push that they've done is the EPA and DNR lead and copper inventory. People who have lead, copper, or unknown service lines will be getting a letter in the paper. Currently, there is, the DNR, the EPA have not given any guidelines about how to go and replace those laterals yet. So right now, it's letters going out saying that you do have lead copper galvanized or an unknown service line, and we will be in touch with you in the future about how they're going to handle the remediation of those laterals. They continue their utility mapping. The sewer is working on the facility plan for their wastewater treatment plant. And then Rick and Tanya are working tirelessly at getting the codes and their budget together for year's end. So they're both working on that hard. And then Thursday, I'm attending the wastewater meeting in Ellsworth with Rick. So we'll have a little more up to date on the whole drying, how we're going to handle drying going forward in that area.
Okay, thanks, Devin. Next up, library.
Thank you. Thank you, Brad, for scrolling.
All right, good evening, everybody.
Hello.
Yeah.
So I spent the first 2 weeks of October at meetings in preparation for the St. Croix Valley Big Read, which will take place in April, and then also for a Zoom presentation, which will be through the Southwest Library System, in which Heather Wearda, the director at the Amory Area Public Library, and I will be discussing what it is like to be a library in a multi-use building. And then the last 2 weeks of the month, I was on vacation. In October, we circulated 4,489 items. We had 111 public computer uses. We had 1,466 ebook checkouts, and we had 23 new patrons. In October, we added 68 items to our shelves. And this number is a little bit lower than past months and what we're used to seeing, because being gone for the last 2 months, any items that came in after I was gone did not get added until after I came back in November. So in October, we hosted all of our regular events: Storytime, Lego Club, the book discussions, lunch with the librarian, and I had book bag visits to Millside and Evergreen Apartments. In addition, Creators Club created pastel art, and October's gallery wall artist Kathy Oscarson had an artist meet and greet and a make with the artist program. I just want to note that our staff did a fantastic job of keeping everything running smoothly while I was gone. And we have upcoming events of Storytime, Teen Saturday this Saturday. On the 18th, lunch with the librarian will be a special one, as I'll share pictures and talk about the adventures I had in Romania on vacation. And then book discussion, Lego Club, and Mr. Licky Goodbye Party.
So what's going on with the snake? Is he sick or what?
No. So the library board decided that it isn't really a library's job to have a pet snake. That there is extra money that would be spent if he would get sick. And when I originally went to the board with this question, it was, what is our cap? If he would get sick, what am I allowed to spend to take care of him? And what came out of that discussion was, what purpose does he serve at the library? And when board members found out that we actually have people who will not come into our library because there is a snake located in our library, they said that needs to be the end.
Bye, Mr. Licky.
So, okay. So where is he going then?
So there's a place in the cities called Snake Discovery, and they will take snakes, reptiles without any questions, and then they will take care of them. And then once they're ready for adoption and rehoming, then he will go to some place.
Okay.
Love him.
All right.
Yeah. And not that we don't love him. You know, there are a lot of people that are really going to miss Mr. Licky, but above and beyond what our staff can do.
Well, I was always a little creeped out by the snake, but there was some teachable moments about
Yes,
that.
Yes. Well, and the thing is, Snake Discovery also does educational programs. And so should we want to do something like that,
Right.
we can have them come and do.
Come in like the animals get brought in, like petting zoo
Yep.
type things.
Yeah.
Snake visitation.
Snake visitation. Yeah,
Yes,
that's,
yes,
just one other, question. The Lego Club seems to be really popular, isn't it?
yes, yes, it is. We get anywhere from 10 to 20 kids that will show up for Lego Club.
Yeah,
So,
that's all I've got.
anyone else? All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ann. All right, next up, fire.
Howdy, everybody. It was pretty kind of a quiet month. We had 13 runs total. 8 were in the village, 5 were in the town of Farmington, 2 were motor vehicle accidents, 8 medical lift assists, 2 alarms, and 1 drone fire. Training for the month was we worked with the airboat down on the river with our electric motors. For we have a trolling motor, big trolling motor on it. And we use that when we do rescues. We go down the river or up the river with the airboat, and when we get close to the patient, we use the trolling motor to get there or get up close. We did just ran all our small engines and did some maintenance on the trucks, and then we went through our chimney fire equipment. The upcoming training for November will be extrication and then motor vehicle accident scenarios. So, other than that, any questions?
No.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Okay, Chamber of Commerce, Main Street. Doesn't have anything listed here, says NA, so.
Yeah, yeah, he won't be here and we didn't receive anything either, or, yeah. Didn't receive anything either from Wyatt.
All right, we will move on to our action items then on the
You want-
agenda.
You want building inspection and admin or not?
Oh geez, I skipped it.
Oh,
Poor Devin. Don't want to skip Devin.
we can skip me.
Movement.
Devin's got lots of stuff to talk about.
So we have 3 new homes. We're looking at 12 new homes for the year, which is a good growth over last year. We should be looking about probably finish here between 15 and 18 new homes, hopefully. Next year, with the talks I've been having, should look like a bigger year for housing. So we're growing, which is good news for the tax base and the taxpayers too as we grow. So that is the permit status there. Administration, the news that came down earlier this week was, or excuse me, last week was that the court case regarding Osceola Bluffs, the case was dismissed from the court due to lack of standing for the plaintiffs. They have 31 days from the decision to appeal it. If there is no appeal by the 31 days, the restraining order is lifted and they're free to start building as is. There's a few things that staff will be working with the developer on. We're probably gonna have to update some terms of the development agreement and possibly TID agreement too. So that might be before us in December to making sure, because some dates have changed on that one. So we're kind of holding out, waiting until the appeal process is done, and then we'll go forward with what's being done. I have been in contact with Dan too about how they're gonna secure the site if there is an appeal and it takes longer too. So there is that discussion going on as we get more complaints about people going in the hospital. So we are having those discussions about the building too. We finished our audit. Brock will be presenting that here in a few minutes. So thanks to hard work from Tanya and Carrie on that for getting that completed. Also want to thank them again for their hard work on the election. They were here until 1 a.m. on Wednesday morning counting ballots. There was no issues whatsoever. Heard nothing but good things on the process and how it was ran. So thank you for your hard work on election day. 2 weeks ago, I was in Madison for the League of Wisconsin Municipalities fall meeting. I attended many things, and some of it I'd like to bring back here, and kind of things I've been thinking about change, and they just kind of give me the tools and ideas of how we can go about fixing some of the things that I've seen that I would like to change. Some updates on the development. The Wurzer, the first Wurzer 12-plex is open. People have moved in. So that is live and ready and going right now. We're looking to close and develop a TID agreement for their 6 12-plexes up there in April. So that's still a few months away, and that's when they would plan breaking ground, would be April or May for that development. We haven't heard anything from Pinnacle Development regarding the development south of town yet. Once they buy the land, we should anticipate annexation, petition for annexation from that development, and that'll be south of the Berkshire property of the airport. And I also met with Berkshire, who we have an option on that land to help. They help us kind of market the land too. I met with them and seeing how should we go forward with that property, that 12 acres down there too. So there's a lot of good conversation regarding development in Osceola right now. Any other questions?
Did we figure out why there's two permits for 505 Delmar?
We did. It was
Still showing as they're both at the same address though,
A, B, C, D.
and they're all at 505 Delmar?
it's why the ABCD.
Okay, perfect.
Kerry came the next day and goes, I knew it was this. So we figured out the day after.
Gotcha. Where are you at with the getting Excel to follow through on some of their stuff?
They're not completely moved in yet. Their engineer is aware of all the items. I have made a list and sent it to him in an email last month.
Perfect.
Else have anything for Devin? Okay, assuming I don't skip anything else, I think we can finally move to item 6 on the agenda, actionable items. 6A, 2023 audit review.
All right, good evening. I'm Brad Guyan, principal in charge of your annual external audit, here to cover, spend about 10 minutes, going to go through things really quick, but at your disposal. So if you have questions, let me know. Do we have the handout?
Was a handout perfect? Is that the one on the website, Kerry? Or is that a different handout?
This is what I got today or
Okay.
yesterday.
Nope.
I try to keep everything condensed into a couple page deal versus walking through the booklet, but some people, not many, want me to walk through that. Happy to do so, but I'll keep it short. Before I get into it, just want to thank admin and finance, did a very nice job organizing. There was a lot to go through. It was change for you guys, moving to us. Some hurdles there, timing. I know it's not exactly what you guys had in mind when we talked last fall. My timing is much quicker than this normally. We were also pretty much on target to issue by June, which have been pretty good timing, have all the regulatory things filed. I did have detached retina happen, and that set me back significantly. So a lot of that timing after that is on me, but here we are covering stuff for 2023. You've already been through your 25 budget. Totally understand that. So I won't take too much of your time here tonight, but any questions on that, let me know. So starting with the handout, part 1, section 1 talks about the deliverables we issue. First and foremost is the financial statements. The good news there, got to a point where we issued unmodified opinion, highest level you can get, means all the amounts and disclosures are materially correct. You did have a new standard that's applicable this year. It didn't have a significant impact on the numbers, but a bit of exercise on your crew to work through all the details of whether or not it did apply, and that's related to subscription-based IT agreements or software. So looked at all those agreements throughout the year. There is some additional language in there too. Part of the, again, not to throw excuses or whatever, but we did run into several issues with the prior year reports that we had to correct and push through this year to fix those. Those are called prior period adjustments. So that you've got some language in your audit opinion that talks about that and refers you to a footnote in the back that shows it in more detail. Basically, there's 4 things there. Treatment of the property tax equivalent from the water utility, the way land held for resale, which is a pretty significant component for you guys with the proceeds there, how that was handled, where the municipal court was reported in the past, and then there was a conversion error in the math and the compilation of the 22 reports from your auditor that we all fixed here going into the beginning of the year for 23. Which leads me to the management letter section. So there are 3 things that are very, very common for all my clients, my government clients, as far as what people consider findings, right? You don't have a ton of CPAs down there in the finance office, so you're going to have a limited segregation of duties, right? You've got few people doing multiple roles. They do it very well, and you rely on that, and you have controls in place to oversee it, such as board level reviews and approvals. Keep up the good work there. That helps mitigate the risk. The other two are just yes or no type things. We drafted the financial statements and we proposed adjustments to the books. Those are, there's quite a few this year. We're going to work through with Tanya to do some training here in the fall too, show her the things that we pulled together to reconcile accounts. So we expect that number to go way down next year. That'd be beneficial for you guys, beneficial for us when it comes around to audit time. All right, let's get into a few of the numbers quick. Section 2 is the general fund. How are you looking? There's 3 shaded rows there. I'm gonna right above the very last row, there's a row called change in fund balance. That's the results for the year, right? You came out at positive 251,000 to the good. That's very good news. That helped out the financial picture. Then you go up to this 3 shaded rows. The first one is your unassigned fund balance, 316,000. That's your reserves that you get to live on going into the next year. We compare that to how much you spent. The second shaded row of 2.7 million. We get that ratio at the bottom of 11.6%. You do have a policy that you want to stay above 30%. Haven't been there in a bit. A good rule of thumb is 25 to 33%, somewhere in there. That's 3 to 4 months worth of reserves. It's not a very long period of time, but it's a good place to go to be. So to strive to get there through policy and decisions in the budget process, right? So the right trend here over the last few years, getting up to 11% and something to work on going forward. Move to page 2. You got your special revenue funds. Won't spend a lot of time here. Kind of give you a 4-year trend of how things are looking. These are just year-end reserves. A couple things to point out. You do have some police-related grant funds that haven't moved, haven't had transactions in the last few years. That's why those numbers haven't changed. Library Act 150, it's not uncommon. That's a negative number there. So you've got deficits at the end of the year in that fund. And then I think maybe the other one to point out is the airport fund's got a positive trend there. That's up to 90,000 at the end of the year. Debt service fund, you got a small deficit there. All that means is you had $960,000 of principal and interest you paid out of that fund. Small difference between the sources of revenues that were coming into the fund to help fund it to what got paid out that will get cleared out in 2024. Item number 4 is an item of discussion here, maybe. So you've got capital projects funds, lots of activity going on there. TID 2, the RDA fund did close during 2023 under this audit period. You had to have your previous auditors close that. We did run into an issue there when we closed out the fund for financial statement purposes. You see there's a number there of 363,000 of year-end reserves. You did take advantage of the last year of a TID where you can collect increment for affordable housing in that last year. So that's what that number represents. Even though you closed TID 2, you've got this bucket of receipts of tax increment that you're going to use for affordable housing projects going forward. That'll get moved possibly to a new fund, something more, so you can segregate it or whatnot, but it's not totally necessary. But know that TID 2 closed. The issue that we ran into, though, it was closed without making the transfer to the general fund for covering administrative costs and things you budget for. So we took that into account here. We adjusted that in the audit, and that's why you ended up at 363 versus the 404 that you collected in tax increment that last year. So there's several different things to think about. You can decide going forward, you can leave it as is, work with the 363, perfectly fine to do so. You can recalculate because you did distribute. The good news here with the TID, it ended with an exit, right? The village general fund got some money. It actually went to the capital projects fund. You had to distribute some to the tech college, school district, and the county as well. It gets divvied up, that excess. So technically, you maybe overpaid them. So you'd ask for some of that back if you recalculate and reclose the audit. You can ask for it back from the general fund, or you can just, again, live with the 363. All 3 of those are perfectly acceptable solutions to the issue, but something to keep in mind and maybe discuss at some point. All right, page 3. You've got your enterprise funds, water, sewer. Good news here on both fronts. You're generating a profit. So maybe go right in the middle of the page where it says net income or loss, the second to last bolded row. You're gonna look there to see how did it turn out for the year. It came out ahead 163,000. So these are full accrual statements. It's not governmental accounting anymore. It's full accrual. So we look at it a little different. You want to look at that net income. Are you covering the costs incurred with the rates you charge? And you are in this case of water. Same thing with sewer down below, second to last year there, positive 247,000. pretty current on rates. Don't see that all the time in my client base. Last adjusted the water in 2019. It might be about time to start looking at that, maybe doing a simplified rate case, inflationary increase if you haven't talked about that. If you got projects or whatnot, maybe you're looking at the full conventional rate cases or something of that nature with the PSC. Sewer, you maintain your own rates there and you just adjust that in 2023. Last but not least, long-term obligations on page 4. Summary there of the long-term debt items. We did issue $280,000 of new debt in the capital projects fund during 2023. You paid $1.4 million of principal. Read that down. That's why that number of that general obligation debt came down from the prior year. The only other thing that maybe looks a little strange is that WRS net pension liability asset row, because there's some negative numbers in there. So I try to clarify that in the OPEB liability. You participate in multi-employer state-run plans with the state, right? You pay them WRS retirement. Same OPEB liability is life insurance. These are benefits for your employees. You don't administer the plan, you participate, you just pay payment down to the state as it's due with payroll. So that doesn't change even though you got a positive or negative in here. But the good news about WRS, it's a pension plan in Wisconsin, it's well funded. In other states, it's grossly underfunded. So we're in a good spot here in Wisconsin. That's why you showed a negative in there. It's a little not too intuitive, but that is an asset that you brought on the books those years from the actuarial provided information from the state. It did turn into a liability in 2023, but it's a minimal one in the scope of the plan. And the only thing that they do to correct that one way or another is modify the rates year by year by a slight amount. And that takes care of that. Other than that, maybe just one more comment. That's the last item there. It's the percentage of the debt limit. You can see there you're at 58.1% of the limit. To go above that, you got to go to referendum to get approval for more general or tax supported debt. You're not at that point yet, though, and so in good shape. With that, I guess maybe I'll open up to questions or comments that you might have.
That very last line on page 4 for 2020 showing the percent of debt at 76.1. Does anybody remember what it was in 2018? I want to say it was in the 90s, right?
I think it was 92 or 93%.
Yeah, we were at 93% of our allowable debt limit. Like the checkbook was 0, essentially. So this is what we needed to see. Like we need to see this number continue to go down. Up above under total general obligation debt, about halfway up the chart, you can see in 2020 we were at 13.4, then it dropped to 11.8, then 11.7, then 10.6. Like that's our debt load that's being paid off. So that's good. And our debt limit continues to raise. It was at 11.8 in 2020. It was much lower than that in 2018. I want to say it was like we had like we could maybe borrow like what $500,000. Like it was nothing.
Yeah.
We had no ability to borrow at all. We were in a very bad spot. And now we're at a point where, I mean, we could handle a disaster that would carve out 16 million in borrowing. So that's what we should do.
Let's hope we don't have.
Well, you want that number to be as big as it can be.
No, I don't
That
want
shows
that.
a healthy fund balance.
I don't want the
So,
disaster,
I understand that, but I'm just saying, like, you don't want to be in that situation with $500,000 of.
but we're in a much better spot now
Yeah.
than we ever have.
We're about halfway through, as I look at the path that was enacted in the great decision of 2018. Like, we have another probably 8 years to go before we'll be in the position that we should be in and regularly operating in, but continue to move in the right direction. So that's good.
They're getting there.
Yeah, another thing I want to point out is because of some of the things we did last year, it allowed us to gain fund balance. Like we had to take that loan out for the maintenance and equipment to balance the budget. And I'm glad we did because looking at this, our fund balance couldn't have supported that in the budget process if they supported it through general funds. So good choice by the board there.
My request for the 2024 audit recap is to take a partner as an alternative option. I don't want to have this discussion in November next year.
Understood.
That's all I have to say about that.
I don't have anything.
Anybody else have anything? Awesome, thanks.
Thank you.
Good looking audit, thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, moving on, 6B, MSA Professional Services, first for the project update.
Good evening, everybody.
I drew.
Hope we're doing good. I'm doing great. Happy to be here tonight. Starting off with this project update. This project update, it's following up from the October board meeting. It is a communication tool that MSA uses. I'm sure you heard that from me before. But I would love to have some discussion on this if anyone would like to. Directing towards Neil, I guess, a little bit, if you want to have discussion after this is done.
I always reserve the right.
So, starting off with our conceptual design. So that is some work MSA was already under contract for. I gave a short presentation on it last board meeting. Since then, I've had a meeting or phone call with the fire department and a meeting with Todd to basically just gain their approval on the plan. And I have sent the deliverables to Devin. I'm just waiting on his response if there's any more work that MSA needs to do. So that'll rest there until I hear something else. Just wanted to let you know that we came through on that.
With that too, we'd like to have kind of a kickoff design meeting to talk about some of the changes us as board members would like to see in the plan before it actually gets designed too. So I would like to have a volunteer too from the board, and invite Wyatt and Todd and myself to sit down with Drew so we hear what we really want and how we want it designed before it goes to design. So I'd like that to happen the next month so we can get what we truly need for this project.
Yep, for phase one, Devin's saying. Please tell Devin if you're interested in being part of that meeting. MSA will accommodate you. We'll do our best. So then at that October board meeting, I heard some feedback about concerns about Eagle Bluff Trail. That's a trail that goes under the bridge down there. And yes, that trail is permitted through the Wisconsin DOT. They know it's there. It's gonna remain there. They said that if they disturb it, they will restore it with some crushed aggregate. I guess there's a stormwater discharge pipe down there. They're going to restore that area. They'll probably have to work on that pipe too. It's in there right away. Just providing the information, but the trail will be closed when they do that work.
For the bridge.
For the bridge, yeah. So if I remember right, maybe they had it scheduled for 27.
28, 29.
Okay. 28, 29. And thank you, Devin. And so we would have to have some, I guess, public posting or something saying the trail's closed. Just providing the information. I'll move on to the phase one budget scenario. So this is something that Neil requested to have more discussion on and is completely valid, and that's why it's here. So you see in my summary here, I talk about how stewardship funding is structured. So how this is structured is the funding is a reimbursable grant. So the village would take out some interim financing for the total project cost once it is bid. And then the DNR will then make payments as we go through pay applications. And then there's option for an advance payment. There's options for an advance payment from the DNR of $355,000. That is in this grant agreement. And so that's just some initial information. So the total project cost would be covered with this interim financing to begin with. So it would be covered by some note to begin with. And then from that point forward, we'll talk about the options, which I have started with some options here listed. One thing that I've gotten feedback from some staff is that we should revise the overlook to have an overlook in the middle of the stairs. I believe that this could have a cost savings if we removed the overlook. It is a large, expensive item that's a part of this project. You could save the project, what here I've noted $140,000. And so maybe you dug into this, you looked at the numbers a little bit. Well, the reason why it's not so much money of a savings, it's because we're missing that $1 match. So if we reduce the scope, we are losing some money from the DNR, but that's okay. That was our strategy. So we could revise the CIP plan during the next update to accommodate our greater borrow. So that basically, I have in parentheses use the interim financing note, but we would still, if the board wishes, cut a piece out of the CIP borrow. We could use TID 3 or TID 4 as a financing source, so we can borrow from those TIDs if it's healthy, if it's projected to be healthy, or use the available balance. So I've noted here that we could pursue a Vibrant Spaces grant. This Vibrant Spaces grant, it's something Osseo has been awarded before. We could go after, the village could go after it. The deadline's December 9th. MSA could support the village or a person's applying for it. Kiana and I would be willing to support them, giving them information. And then here I have the state trust fund loan. I have that on there. I was talking about that in October, just briefly. It is an option. It's an option for any kind of community borrowing. And the interest rates are typical. There's nothing great about it other than repayment is flexible. Duration of years is it's very flexible. It's aimed to help communities make sure that they can continue with their infrastructure projects. And then the last thing that's not on here, I would say, is private grants. Devin indicated to me he's reached out to private interested parties. I have some basic ideas how we could go after private money also. So those are my options, I'm calling it. I believe that these things, other than Vibrant Spaces grant, are things that can be talked about in the future. And decided upon. So.
Devin, I don't want to make you speculate, but I think most of us up here probably have our own opinions on just how likely there will be a motion for reconsideration on the overturn at appeals court. I don't think it's very likely, to be honest with you. Given that assumption, how much does TID 3 stand to be able to fund this type of project?
We're tying up quite a bit into the infrastructure,
Mm-hmm.
and we've already assigned some to the demo of the milk house.
Right.
And also the new building on top of Quick Trip, we're going to do some type of TID agreement with them too. So a lot of their 85, well, not 85, it's closer to about 60% of theirs is going back to them for orders there. So we have a little chunk in there. So as you can see, there's not much cash in it already. It's only like 68,000 in TID 3 at the end of last year.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I can't really forecast that as, but we've already have some obligations in TID 3. TID 4, there's some park projects that Todd and I were talking about that we'd like to see in TID 4. And we'd hate to take away from some of those projects that we were looking at. With that being said, I can also look to see what type of loan the state trust fund would be and what it would be to our yearly debt levy and what the impact would be. So if you did want to borrow, what the options would be for that too.
Yeah.
Because if it's a minor amount, it might be worth going that route because your payment would be 10, 20 years, depending on the size of the loan.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be relatively easy, especially if we have debt coming off the book. If we add a little bit, it'd be a, basically a 0% increase depending on how the debt comes off in those years.
Yeah. I mean, being awarded a grant of this size, we already have the great majority of the funds that the village needs to come up with for matching. We're short, 250,000. Is that what we're
That's
short?
what I have indicated here. Yep.
Yeah,
So it'd be a small, if we do a 20-year loan,
it
you know,
would be a really small borrow.
it'd be a
Yeah,
small borrow
to
for
take
yearly.
full advantage of this 50/50 grant, yeah, so.
And
I
as you
mean,
saw from our audit, our debt capacity has gone down substantially.
and I mean, that's the worst case scenario. I mean, the best case would obviously be a potential revision of the TIF incentive in TID 3, which would result in potentially a few more dollars to work with. So, I mean, we have to make TID 3 float.
Yeah, we have
So-
some infrastructure. The finishing of Ridge Road is a big one. Developers are paying for some of it, but that's reimbursable.
Well, that'd be TID 4, right?
No, that's TID 3. The Words are 1.
3?
The Words are up by Quick Trip is TID 3.
Okay.
So that'd be Ridge Road, and that'd be paid off for, so we'd be reimbursing Words construction for the Ridge Road and for the utility project up there. And then the apartment complex, a lot of it's going to be used for the River Street improvements.
Yeah, all the rework done on Third Avenue and River Street infrastructure stuff, yeah. I mean, I don't know what everybody else's opinion is up here, but I would like to try to find a way to make sure we could take advantage of the full amount of that grant. I wouldn't want to leave money on the table.
I want to see a really great thing happen for the town.
Exactly.
And I think that we have an opportunity with matching funds to do that.
Yeah.
I struggle with the idea of borrowing money for it, just because I think there's been a lot of good work that's predated me to get debt under control here.
Agreed.
And I think that, I think maybe part of the reason I am a pain in the neck is because I'm yet to understand what we would get for the money we have currently set aside to do this, and then what additional money would get us, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like what is the difference between an $800,000 staircase and whatever the higher number is?
1.2 to 1.4.
Yeah, like what? I don't know that I feel prepared to be able to like say yes or no to that, because I don't have a good sense of what we're talking about, you know?
I actually have the same concern as you do. I know that you did a nice presentation before on the stairs and the options of the wheel or not wheel, things like that. But will this incorporate if the old hospital gets destroyed and you know, we envision the walkway behind before, maybe even a deck to the south side of PY as an observation deck.
Yeah.
You know, where we can have music or whatever. It doesn't have to be tied into the stairs, but use that space there. It's beautiful, prime space. You know, what will that include for this total cost? Are we talking just about the staircase right now? I mean, I exactly share your concerns, Neil.
I don't know what we're arguing over yet.
Yeah.
You know, and I think, and then the other reason that I've been resistant is because it feels like that conceptual design that we've been shown, I'm glad to hear, and I would happily attend a meeting with Wyatt and Todd and others to talk about what we want out of the staircase. Because I think that process hasn't really happened yet. We've been reacting to a conceptual design that has merits for sure, but we haven't put it through any kind of a rigorous discussion.
Yeah.
And so to ask me about a financing option when I just don't feel like I know what kind of trim we're going to get in exchange for the financing,
right?
It's difficult for me to.
Yeah, and if we're also looking for some private investment or public investment, whoever it might be, the financing might allow us the cushion to go seek it while it's being built too. I mean, that's always a terrible idea to seek funding while you're building, but it gives you the option.
And I think that if there were a clear vision of this is what we've decided we'd really love to see, and we're X number of dollars short, and these are our strategies to come up with that difference, but we have an idea of what we're trying to achieve by raising those extra dollars, that's a totally different conversation in my mind. And so I think that's where I'd really love to see, like, what are the options?
I think some of those decisions may not be able to be fully made until after December 6th.
Drew, you talked about, there was a dollar amount that was if lower bids or lower money to be matched, the numbers go lower. There was a penalty of some sort for this, or what was it?
Yeah, I could just elaborate, Van. That's fine. So that preliminary cost estimate that I've provided, that's what this grant agreement was created on. So that was $700 and some thousand of village dollars, and then matched to DNR. And that estimate is preliminary, so I have contingency in it. I have extra fluff in there in case the project cost did get excessive. But now if we reduce the project scope, the DNR is not gonna give us money that we don't match. So the DNR is only gonna match our $1 that we put towards construction and design.
It's a 50-50 grant regardless of how much we spend.
So the DNR right now says, oh, we'll go up to $750,000 of match. But if the Village of Osceola only pays $700,000 for this project, we're only paying $700,000 also.
Okay.
So it's a $1-to-$1 match.
And the way that that hurts you in the back end, if you reduce the project scope by 200, you're only saving 100
Exactly.
because the
Right.
DNR pulls back 100. So
But we have
that's
to
what
be
that
very-
talks about when, the overlook change is probably $250,000 in reduction. We only realize 140 of it.
Right. So we have to be
280,
thoughtful.
So this planning meeting,
Mhm.
will that be open to the public as well?
Well, we had the conceptual design. I just want to get the final design. So I just want to get board feedback so we can go forward and get it, and get so we have design ideas and get it engineered so we can start next summer.
Drew,
I could comment to Marcia if that's appropriate, is that I found it's best to have public involvement at least 60%. If the public involvement is super passionate, 60%, get our plan 60%. It's the best success I've had is like 90%. And that's what the DOT does too. They do it at 90%.
Drew, I'd like to see you design this into a budget that we could build and have for a few more sheets of paper in a bid pack. You could add some
Mhm.
alternnates.
Options.
That might move into the 1.4. So instead of shooting for 1.4 with deducts, start with the reasonable value with some add alternates. And then we can make a decision after the fact. And that'll give us more time to decide where our funding's coming from.
Right.
All right. Yeah, very good.
Good.
So that was great discussion. Thank you. We can leave it there unless there's more.
Okay, next is the update and adopt the comprehensive plan.
Last week, the planning commission made a recommendation to adopt the comprehensive plan by a vote of 5-1. Some comments, Rob Bullard mentioned that this is the best comp plan he has seen since he's been on the board. So he was very happy with that. Only one person spoke during public input. That was Talon Nornberg, and he was very positive reception towards the comp plan too. So tonight we'd be looking for a motion to update and adopt the comprehensive plan.
And then I think the nay vote was Kim, right? And
Yep,
he was-
Kim's
He was
had,
stuck on an issue where we didn't have partnership with the neighboring municipalities in writing.
and he still had issues with chapter 9.
Okay.
Yeah, so MSA, we take a new approach to these comp plans. So it's not a traditional approach. That is some of the feedback that we've gotten. This approach that we're taking allows us to be flexible and allows us to not have to adopt this plan or amend this plan so often. So it's one of our strategies. Yeah, we also try to provide a comp plan that's not 100 pages long or hundreds of pages long, because who's going to sit down and read the whole thing?
Were the recommended changes made in this ordinance? Because I know that there were 3 recommended changes that were passed with the recommendation. They were done? Okay.
Yeah, they approved the resolution. You guys are approving the ordinance tonight.
I see the word has, so I know that that one's there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so we're just looking for board action to adopt this.
I'll make a motion to adopt the comprehensive plan for ordinance 24-06.
Thanks, Van. Is there a second?
I will second.
Thanks, Arvid. We have a motion by Van and a second by Arvid to adopt ordinance 2406, adopting the comprehensive plan. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Carries. Thank you. That's a long process. Complete.
Yep, that was about 12 months of good work and great dialogue with Plan Commission. So thanks to everyone.
All right, next item is the MSA contract for AFG reapplication.
Yeah, so as of today, FEMA has opened their 2024 AFG application. So today I'm presenting this contract on behalf of our funding team to reapply for another vehicle acquisition. Our first attempt was unsuccessful. We have gotten valuable feedback from FEMA. Now, this next next application, year 2024, it's more competitive than the last one. Providing that information, it'll be more competitive. We have an approach to possibly try to acquire 2 vehicles instead of 1. There's options. We haven't settled on any option. We're trying to get the most amount of points out of our application. So right now we're looking at this contract for MSA to do the work. It's the same amount of costs of the first one. And, as I mentioned, we're looking at different options to make our application more competitive. And that will be discussed, with the fire department. Try to tailor to them.
Can you share some of the summary of the FEMA response?
Yep. So, I could pull it up. I'll go off the top of my head. Our narrative could have been more direct. So our narrative, first the interview section, we didn't make it past the initial screening. So there's an initial screening where they look at our application. The application wasn't made past the initial screening. It was due to an error that was made in the application, basically. And what the FEMA didn't necessarily say it was directly because of this, but it probably is the reason, because we looked for a new vehicle instead of a replacement vehicle. So a mistake. And then if our application made it past the initial screening, something that could have been better is our narratives and our financial need. So our financial need, we don't have anything in here that screams that we're in dire need of a vehicle. So part of our approach in this new project or new application will have to be basically having some working sessions with the fire department, trying to work on our narrative, on working on our financial need, also working on basically the reasons. There's one other thing. I don't know if Joey would like to comment right now. If you'd like to, do you know any other things that I maybe missed?
Big one was when you fill out the application, FEMA looks at the replacements as the scope of your department hasn't changed. New purchases, it's not literal. You may be getting a new purchase, but you're not adding a new scope of equipment. So that drop down was critical in that initial screening process.
Snake.
Added a different building or structure, a business that required different equipment, that would have been lost for that.
All of a sudden we had a taller building, we needed a taller ladder truck or something.
That would be a new purchase.
Yeah, which would be more advantageous for FEMA.
Under that scope. So they would literally say you're looking to replace an existing piece of
So Joey, what is our need up there right now? We've an aging fire or a field truck or something, or a grass rig, or
positives on the grant were the fact that the tender that we would have replaced is 39 years old. And the fact that the fleet of our tenders all average 36 years old or 34 years old. So those 2 things would be key for at least an initial grant. But once you get it, if you do get an award-winning grant, then the subsequent grants would be biased then by that new age of that equipment. But
so our need is we just have an aging fleet.
right. So the FEMA representative said those are great numbers going in, and some call volume stuff is kind of detracts us, so that's where they're saying the financial narrative needed to be more specific. What is the village facing for financial needs that is driving you to need to go to other funding sources? Paying for the milk house, your loan yet that you still have outstanding, needs to build new schools. Those are types of things that would be, those are the things to stare away. Those are things that you can leverage with specifics and details in the narrative to, if you get past the screening phase, then makes your application more appealing from the competitive side.
So it begs the question, if the need is that we just haven't been budgeting and our fleet is old, is that something FEMA would look at and go, well, that's not our problem?
You could probably argue that in the case that overall the department has a lot of aging equipment, and at some point it's going to create an undue burden. You're not going to be able to find.
Sure, so we got a bunch of redundant aging.
Right. Even though this application may be for grant, you could probably make a case that there's an awful lot on the CIP plan that at some point needs to be addressed.
I'm
Needs.
trying to be devil's advocate to see, does it make sense, and are we going to be in another situation where we're going to get a denial just for asking for the same thing and using different words?
Like we said, we're trying to make sure we know contingencies if things happen. Those two older tenders we have are steel tanks. If they spring a leak or we have to need to replace them, the tank alone is $30,000, and by the time you install it, you're pushing $100,000.
Sure. So we don't have a new need, we have a problem. Probably, yeah. I guess I don't know how to explain it. Okay, it makes sense.
And
The
there's
new
like-
stairway could be a situation too, where we get a grant for some new piece of equipment that addresses that new feature.
I think it's like anything else, the more compounding issue you can articulate, explain, the better off you'll be. And sounds like that wasn't done this last time around, but you're on it this time, so that's a good sign.
Yeah.
Just don't make this strike
Reinforce
two,
it.
Drew.
Reinforce it. And I would say, thanks, Mike. I would say that.
Pressure.
We've gotten feedback that once we get an application, if we got an award, then that would skew the age of our fleet. And then maybe this grant source would not be such a great fit for the department anymore. FEMA wouldn't give us another one potentially. So that's why I indicated that we might look at going after 2 vehicles for the application. So, an option.
I feel bad because every time you come up, I feel like I end up whacking you over the head. But I think like not getting through the initial screening because of a misunderstanding about the checkbox to me is pretty frustrating because we paid you to put an application together and it sounds like there was just a straight up mistake. So I don't know if you have a reaction to that, but I mean, like that would be why we look to you for support and we don't just have our own staff put together an application. Was this the first application you'd ever done? Like was
I don't think you, Neil. I'd love
like
to
what
respond.
kind of what the heck happened with that?
Initially, sorry. That's the best thing I can give you today. I do have it documented that I asked that question if that box should have been something different, and that was my company's mistake. That another person in my company made that mistake. We did ask FEMA if we were filling out the right box, but it was through MSA employees' miscommunication. So ultimately, it was my mistake. So sorry is the best thing I can give. When I present this application or this contract, I hope you feel that I'm not trying to gouge of any means, and I'm, from my perspective, trying to give the best cost I can. I can't do it for any less. So if I wish I could do it for free, I guess, because I made a mistake, but I can't. I can't sign up for that.
Yeah.
I won't sign up for it.
Well, I mean, I mistakes happen. I think that it is frustrating that a clerical error is one of the reasons that we're now being asked to spend another fee. You're here and there are coals to rake you over, so I've done it. But I think that's
I
pretty
was
frustrating.
frustrated about it also. I wish I could done something better for the fire department. Me trying to chase this down, I hope you see my merit ambition to try to secure this grant for the fire department. Also, I'm trying.
Drew, having been in your shoes, I can appreciate those check boxes. So it's bid forms and applications and stuff can get complicated, and you can read them 100 different ways and come up with 100 different answers. So,
Yep. We sell human service. Humans make mistakes. I'm used to it, but it is really frustrating. I tried to have my thumb on it. So
That's a good segue of showing mercy.
I'm thinking this will help him try harder next time.
Oh, he's gonna try real hard.
Well, and they've, I look at all the other things that MSR and you've been doing too, and I think it's really good. So, I can't shoot you over one thing yet.
It's hard.
One more time though.
yeah, I say let's give it one more shot. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying let's keep going after it year after year after year unless the board wants to, unless the fire department wants to. But
What is just across the board for everybody? How many applicants and how many awards?
So last year there was $324 million available. Now only 20% of that money was in our vehicle acquisition target or our bucket of money. So $1 million, a little less or something that we could have got, and there was hundreds of awards.
I mean, the odds are not great anyway.
When I initially presented this to admin finance 2 years ago, I thought it was like 3-1 odds. But then there's also a lot of human error. FEMA says that like over half of the applicants or something make a human mistake.
Yeah, you're not. I'm surprised to hear that it's 3-1, to be honest. I would have thought it would have been way worse than that.
That's what I recall saying, Mike.
But it's also not surprising that half of them, you got to weed out part of them for some reason just to get to the gist. So
Is asking for 2 vehicles going to be less likely for a grant award if everything went perfect than 1? So I'd rather see that we get at least 1. Like, I don't want to make it through all the steps and then have not justified 2 vehicles. You know what I mean, one's better than none. So what's the reason?
To Joey's comment from before, I mean, and I think Public Works has addressed it. We're trying to get into a vehicle cycle, and I don't know how many of these types of, if we're looking at, if we have 3 and we're looking at replacing 2, we're not really fixing the cycle. It seems like it would make more sense to try for one year, 1 the next, a third, so we can get into some rotation.
I think what you need to look at is, it's a little bit more, our ISO rating that we do have, hopefully people leverage our ISO rating because it's the best we can get as a department for our size. You have to be a full-time department and have a crew of 4 and an engine staffed, ready to roll to get any better rating than what we have here. A lot of that is what they refer to as water on wheels. If we leverage replacing 2 tenders to get 1 to help our grant from an appeal standpoint, then you need to have a backup plan for getting the second one replaced, which is also 37, 36 years old. Or you start risking changing those ratings too and helping with that piece of it.
Yeah, I'd like to comment is just that if we get awarded, there's a great chance that we would not get awarded again due to our fleet's average age. So that's why we are thinking, and we will have some meetings about it, game plan, figure out the best thing we can do. But the best option might be to ask for 2 because we might only get 1 award in 20 years.
So it's a gamble, really. It's like you shoot for 2 and hope you get it, or you shoot for 2 and it shoots you in the foot.
Yeah, and like awards that I'm seeing, they were $1 million. That was a common award. So we were asking for $200,000, but a common award was $1 million. 600?
610.
600, yeah. Sorry.
200 was the grant rate.
Mistake. But, yeah, anything else I could answer? This also, this comes up every year, so.
Well, we've got quite a bit invested already into this. You know, if we put this away, we get nothing. Absolutely nothing.
I'll make a motion to approve the contract as presented to have MSA put together an AFG reapplication for the park.
And I would recommend the funding comes from the remaining CIP dollars from the previous borrow.
I'll second that.
And last time, the Friends paid for that last time, right?
$1,000 of it, right?
Okay. Oh, it's the CIP, yeah.
I think what the Friends had offered was that in the event we ever get awarded, we would reimburse for the $2,500.
That's what it was. Thank you for the reminder on that.
Friends were willing to make sure the cost was covered if I'm important.
Get those? Motion and second? Okay, we have a motion and a second on the table to adopt or to accept the agreement. I'm gonna be a no vote. I'm gonna do a roll call on this. Neil?
Aye.
Aye. Van?
Aye.
I am a no vote.
No.
Ron?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 5-2.
Hey, thanks for everyone's time.
Hey, Drew.
All right, next up on the agenda is